Again, this is the diagram that Mike and Bert came up with for the way that we're going to be plumbing in our live well today here at Shipshape TV. And there are many ways that you guys can choose to do this project. But what I've done is I've invited a very dear friend of mine to join me today, who's right over here. This is Richard Cozier. Great to see you. And Richard is with the world's leading company in marine hardware. I'm talking about Perko. And the guys have requested a 3/4 inlet of water. We've got to be able to pump water into our new live well. And Richard, what are we going to use to take seawater from the outside of the boat and pump it into a live well?
John, there's a couple of different options. You can use either a scoop strainer with a through hull attached to it, but Bert's requested to go with our inline scoop strainer and fitting that is built in one.
What is this actual material right here, Richard?
It's made out of bronze.
Which is what?
It's basically an alloy made up of brass, nickel, and copper.
And this has been proven for hundreds of years to really hold up well in a marine environment. And why is this so far superior to plastic fittings?
The main advantage to it is its strength, but it's also very corrosive resistant, even though, and it doesn't have any UV characteristics to it that the plastic would have.
Now, let's start here with installing this. What we have to do is we have to drill a hole in the bottom of the pursuit, and we want to face the scoop so that as we're going forward, it's going to force water through the scoop, which is also a strainer. It keeps out seagrass. And we want to make sure that we seal it. And so what we want to do is we want to put a big thick bead of polyurethane adhesive on the base of this, and it's held in with 4 self-tapping screws that you also want to use polyurethane adhesive on. And then on the inside of this flange, if you will, or this, what do you call this, threaded pipe, you want to put a big thick bead of polyurethane adhesive, and you bring down your lock nut to where it's just past finger tight and you get a little bit of squeeze, and then wait about 24 hours for it to cure, and you can come back and you can really lock that down, and that's going to give you a real nice gasketed seal. What are we going to put as some type of a shut-off on top of this fitting?
John, you're going to use an inline ball valve.
Okay. And if you notice this going vertical, that indicates that water is able to flow through. If we turn it 90 degrees, it's going to shut water off in an emergency. Now, on top of what we're using, the ball valve, Bert and Mike have opted for a Rule 360 gallon per hour pump. And we're going to wire this in to a battery, a 12-volt battery, as well as we want a real good accessible spot on the boat for a switch, so that we can just hit that switch and we can start pumping water into our live well. But coming out of this pump, we're going to use 3/4 inch line. And tell everybody about what they need to know about the marine hose.
John, you want to make sure that the hose is a marine quality, certified for use below the water line, and you want to make sure that all of your hose runs have no sagging or dips in them that would possibly create an airlock.
Bert really wanted to be able to adjust the water flow going into the live well, so he chose this piece right here. This is an aerator, and it allows us to adjust the water pressure, and that controls the amount of oxygen, which is really cool. Now, in a live well, you've got an intake, you also have an outflow, okay? You want to make sure that your outflow is larger than the water coming in. You want to be able to, you want to circulate the water. As your bait's down in there, you don't want your bait to die. You know, if they're pooping and peeing or whatever, you always want clean water. So what diameter are we going to go with our exhaust?
John, you all have chosen to go out with an 1.5 inch diameter. And we're going to use another strainer, but it's a round strainer that's going to mount on the inside of the live well.
Okay.
And from that, you're going to have the through hull that comes up and butts into the back of the surface along these lines.
Now, we want to run 1.5 inch hose to a through hull, and Bert has selected a spot on the transom of the boat below our engine bracket for that. But it's very important that you have an emergency shutoff in line, and again, we're going to be using a ball valve for this.
Correct.
Okay, now guys, there's a lot of different ways to plumb in a live well, and Perko makes a lot of the components that you're going to need for your shopping list. And could you give everybody a real great way to kind of assemble this list of everything they would need to have for this project?
John, Perko makes over 2,000 different items with about 5,000 different SKUs. So our website is a very good resource at perko.com. You go there, you can look through all of the different products that we manufacture, as well as being able to use our where to buy mechanism that allows you to put your zip code in and be able to find your closest marine retailer to you.
Stay bolted. Ship Shape TV will be back in a snap.